This video is intended to describe a set of both Harmony devices in Lightblade format of Wand and Lightblade Talisman in tandem. They are a matching set of a very harmonious nature, which will be quite in depth in both these descriptions, so I will do my best to keep things uniform and lateral as I describe the components of both these devices in tandem. Starting off with both of these devices' blade bands is the ignition sequence of golden healer quartz, which is a very prominent, powerful gold-white light Christ frequency emanation. So you can think of that being the main primary blade band on both of these constructs for the great central sun sourced energy to be the subcapacitator to blue lace agate, which has a very lovely stabilization to the 5th chakra, which I will employ my crude chakra map for this visual cue. So the gold-white light emanation of the golden healer quartz will make a very strong higher heart stimulation and connection to source, as the blue lace agate strongly stabilizes the 5th chakra. So when you have that concept of a strong source overlap concentration over the higher heart activated in the human avatar, in tandem with the blue lace agate to stabilize that truth, that pressure valve, if you would, of all the excess energy running through the system, right here condenses at the 5th through the shoulders up towards the higher realms or higher chakra centers. So that combination of the primary blade band of both these constructs will be very advantageous for the realized crystalline avatar consciousness on a 3D operating system, or a, put it simply, a human conscious avatar. So that'll be the primary blade band of both these designs, and both these designs go straight into a transmutation blade band ratio. Both, you can see here how the energy courses around here connects to this first lateral band, and like so here. This combination of these stones is the transmutation ratio of hematite and smoky quartz, which makes a very powerful grounding of excess energy. So this entire pattern runs up like so of the same ignition sequence of smoke quartz and hematite to this lateral band, like so, completing the circuit, and just like this, completing the circuit like that on both sides. On both the projective brass and receptive balance, this ignition sequence is mounted. So to be more specific about the transmutation blade band ratio, hematite's an iron-based mineral that has a very strong grounding arcing of excess energies, makes a very strong ground into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. A very essential aspect of any kind of light work, if you would, is the ability to keep it grounded in tangibility to make it real for practicality's sake. Smoky quartz, just like the hematite, makes a very strong grounding combination, as well as a etheric composting that will take all excess energies and ground it through the physical body into the meridian matrix. So you can think of these two combined together. A term I like to employ quite a bit is etheric Teflon that will make a very strong insulation purification ground to make sure nothing of lower densities actually sticks to the field internally, externally from such a high ground yield. And it's very useful as a arced insulation to such high frequency devices to be the perfect antithesis of this high spiritual energy into practical use as a human on the path of life, to be quite simple. I can't digress enough how obviously it is important to stay grounded with these kind of spiritual notions for practical effort, because anyone watching this interested in these kind of modalities is obviously, we've incarnated in these bodies for a very good reason. If we were non-physical, we would be non-physical, but we're here in the 3D for a very good reason. So that aspect of the transmutation ratio, even continuing like so for this main engine band, is essential for grounding the energy into the Earth Meridian Matrix for reprocessing. Particularly also, you can think of the aspect of all this excess radial energy having a strong arc ground into Mother Earth, which needs this kind of celestial energy the most. That's enough digression on the transmutation blade band ratio and the importance of grounding. Moving on. So both these devices are very complex, which is why I'll discuss both of the hood sections in tandem right now. But starting off with this glorious guy right here, this is actually a star Argonite cluster. This is the apex of the pommel, if you would, and a very prominent positioning next to its rutilated quartz for a very good reason. Star Argonite is very effective calcium-based stone for any kind of clearing of any light body impediments. So you can think of the entire chakra column, just from this one stone alone, makes a very powerful clearing and activation of the entire system from the earth stars, chakras beneath your feet, all the way to the soul stars and everything in between. So it's a very powerful synergistic two-way clear of any kind of light body impediments. So obviously, in these devices, being complicated frequency broadcasters that have a closed loop circuit subroutine, all these frequencies play off each other in tandem for a broadcast goal of harmony. Hence the archetypal name was designated for these devices, and the archetypal name is honored by the crystalline ignition sequence order, creating a closed loop circuit. So star Argonite is very fantastic for any aspect of healing or any kind of light body impediment of any kind throughout the entire field. So this by itself is quite the prominent healer in the crystalline kingdom of vibratory ingestion for the optimized auric field. So having this as the apex with many other frequencies to really complement to get the most out of it by itself will be quite the challenge, to put it in very succinct terms, but I will of course do my best, as I always do in these description videos. That's enough digressions. Back to practical facts, if you would. So, this right here is red jasper. Red jasper is a stabilizing earth elemental red ray stabilization of the base, which can be found in here on the talisman as well. This right here is amethyst, a lovely purple ray higher frequency stone of purification or transmutation from like the higher aspect of spiritual influx, which of course works in tandem perfect with this concentration of smoke quartz hematite, which is the whole subroutine, which I digressed upon already. This right here is blue lace agate. Blue lace agate can be found on, oh yeah, this guy is just actually, blue lace agate on this guy was just the primary blade band, just like so, but the blade wand itself is a little more complex of an operating system, if you would, because since there's more space with larger volumes to work with, it can be a little more complex while maintaining a streamlined flow broadcast. Blue lace agate is amazing, like I mentioned previously for the blade band description, a very stabilizing fifth ray focus, which is impeccable for a stabilized fifth chakra. It's a stabilized mind and a stabilized projection of one's truth into reality. So the importance of blue lace agate cannot be overstated in the mineral kingdom for any modalities of counseling, diplomacy, or just speaking a spiritual truth that must be said. In that regard, particularly for counselors, teachers, practitioners, a very advantageous frequency for the ability to talk as a human is pretty helpful in this incarnation. I think everybody can agree with that. So that stone is probably the best answer in the mineral kingdom to stabilize that more impeccable fifth chakra stimulation. I'm going to focus on the agates primarily right now to keep the same continuity of thought, because the agates and jaspers in general are the most stabilized variable frequencies in the mineral kingdom. So having the elemental spectrums of stability of the four elements is very advantageous for long-term gains, as well as a proper elemental diffuser through the entire healthy functioning auric field. Next, I'll be going into fire agate right here. Fire agate is very stimulating, but especially stabilizing to the base, sacrum, and solar plexus, the lower three chakras, which is very much helpful for enthusiasm and creative results, as well as passion for life, and quite simply very much like the in-the-body experience of the zest for life, and to put the wielder in touch with that zest and the wonderment, so to speak, or enthusiasm that stable fire can produce. Next, we'll be going to moss green agate, another stabilized variant of the green ray of water element to stabilize the heart into a more cohesive factory setting. So you can think of it as a very powerful stabilization of the idyllic green ray concentration, which is the source of our connectivity to creation, as well as the heart is how we connect to everything else in this reality. So having a stabilized variation of the water element in a green ray concentration found here and here. Let's see, where is that guy? There it is on this talisman. Is quite advantageous. And also back to the etheric blueprint settings. So you can think of that as a stabilized frequency that, of course, governs the entire respiratory system of the blood coursing through the system, or circulatory system also, and cellular respiration, I should say. So having a stabilized variant of that frequency throughout the entire field makes a very nice, stable longevity flow. Hence all the agates working in tandem of the different respective frequencies, including red jasper, which is not technically an agate, but a very stabilized red ray earth, which is very advantageous. The next agate on the list is holly blue agate. This is a specialty wind agate that actually is purple, so it has a very stimulating, stabilizing aspect to the higher mind, and a relatively rare stone. It comes from one mine in northern Oregon, but luckily I have access to it for these different constructs, and is a very powerful way to stabilize the higher mind centers, particularly in very psychic individuals in that aspect, and be able to navigate the higher realms, so to speak, with more stability, with less speed wobbles, to put it quite simply. Very advantageous for that exact feature. So I'll describe something in tandem, yet they're two different flavors of the same frequency. On the Lightblade wand harmony, the sub-engine to this main Lemurian clear quartz, which is the main heart of the device, since it's a programmable clear quartz frequency, both here and here, as well as a little bit right here, for the Talisman variant as well as the wand variant, it makes a very neutral intention program frequency. So it also is the main heart of the device as a program capability, as well as the intention charge of the wielder of this device can be focused through the device, like so, with a prayer, to put it simply, then broadcast. And that makes it also a very compatible flash drive frequency. Clear quartz is very programmable in the entire aspect of the intentional broadcast. So by having the clear quartz in here as the main engine as well as here, makes them further synchronized compatible devices with any other light tech for that matter in general too, to make a more vibrational compound interest, if you would. But back to what I was talking about a few moments ago, the celestial quartz, both here and here, are very essential frequency regulators for both constructs. In the wand, there is a smoky variant of this celestial quartz. Smoky quartz, like I described, has a very advantageous grounding effect, yet the celestial formation actually makes it a very special higher self template resonator that also works like a dimmer switch to ensure the proper amount of energy contact patch in a situation is very reactive to the wielder's higher self configuration at any given moment. So, i.e. example, watching TV. This frequency is ideally going to slow down for relaxation. It's very reactive. Doing a healing work or doing a kind of counseling session, this will actually pick up pace and match the requirements of the candidate's wielding needs at that moment. And so that is the smoky variety in the wand itself, and to be the perfect antithesis of the amethyst variety, the same structure of celestial quartz, except of course a more purple ray stimulation, which is higher mind chakra activation. Which is rather nice in the Talisman format to always have a regulator to be able to maintain the impeccable flow of energy required in the situational moment for the wielder of this device. And down here is black tektite, found here and here. Black tektite is a impact of a meteorite, oftentimes nickel iron, impacting sand to vaporize the sand to carry that cosmic jolt into reality. So that has extraterrestrial energy impact orientation, or you can call it space obsidian, since it's a formless glass that is the result of high heat and pressure from the jolt of an impact. So how that works metaphysically speaking is it's a black ray stone that has a very strong stimulation of kundalini from the earth stars all the way up through the chakra column, particularly from the black ray, so it has a very strong ground up connotation, which is very useful for all aspects of, like I say, spiritual work. Being grounded, so to speak, is very, very important in my humble opinion. So it has a very cosmic, intense variant of the black ray to really have a ground up sparking of the entire light body, or even the Kundalini centers stimulated in general. This right here is jet. Jet is a carbon black ray stone of like a petrified wood, but it's actually a very powerful transmuter or purifier of energy, just like the smoked quartz and the hematite in combination. But it also takes that further connotation of the carbon-based resonance with the human avatar to make a very strong purification of energy. It was utilized in druids of old, particularly for nullifying and basically mitigating any kind of black magic and a more mystical old school usage of this exact frequency right here in the British Isles. But in today's world, of course, like the more purification you get, the better it all is for everybody, quite simply. To keep things surprisingly simple on that topic. And there is no jet in this guy, but there actually is shungite, which I might as well get into next. Where'd it go? That will be installed after this video is taking place. Shungite will be in here as well. Shungite is a black ray stone of extreme purification and very much in vogue in this timeline for its notoriety to mitigate EMF waves of any kind or any kind of harmful cellular radiation that can corrupt the subtle DNA of the properly functioning human avatar light body. And got a piece right there in this talisman. Okay. So, very important aspect to discuss too. I will get into this guy first. This is rutilated quartz. Rutilated quartz works as a very strong accelerator of energy. So it's naturally quartz with titanium rutile strands inside of it that have a very powerful supercharged energy output. And the reason why this is particularly special in this wand right here is by having the termination sequence of the star argonite, rutilated quartz next to the main engine and the sub-engine, the celestial quartz, makes a powerful closed-loop circuit supercharging of this entire main engine section, particularly in direct contact with this seraphinite. So you can think of this as a supercharger to really accelerate the energy through this entire engine, but the seraphinite contact patch found here and here is an amazing green ray stone named after the seraphim archangels, and one of the most powerful, profound healing stones in our age, in my humble opinion. It takes a very powerful green ray stimulation and actually aligns the entire chakra column. So it actually does activate the entire spectrum of the proper functioning energy field, yet has a very strong green ray connotation, which is very heart-centered, heart healing in that capacity. And is very powerful for cell respiration as well as aligning the IM column core to the entire aligned electromagnetic spectrum of the rays or the higher template chakras in proper balance. And it's a very powerful wing chakra subtle frequency inducer, which is almost off topic, but I might as well get into. So in theory, when enough source energy dumps through the primary high heart chakra, the wing chakras experience the back of the shoulder blades almost like exhaust vents of excess radio energy, of source energy that will actually make a very powerful discharge throughout the entire auric field's outer matrix. That's a story for another time, but long story short, that's very inducive for that higher template configuration, as well as it being a very powerful archangelic resonator, so you can resonate with the archangel spectrum of the typical big four people know about is Michael, Uriel, Gabriel, and Raphael. And of course there's Metatron, which is a story I'll get into in a little bit that's relating to these badges right here. But Seraphinite is a very powerful wholeness, healing, frequency stone to keep it relatively simple. Okay, so without further ado, I will discuss Metatron next. Metatron is known as an archangel of the more sacred geometric patterns of reality, kind of higher science-y kind of stuff, which is obviously a big patron saint of mine. And so the utilization of Metatron's cube right here is a sacred geometric shape based on the flower life, of course, and it's more of a precise focus of the harmony throughout the universe with the connection points, and it's a whole long story to get into, which I won't digress further on much in this video, but this is Metatron's cube, a very powerful sacred geometric harmony or unity frequency pattern that is behind the aspects of all of creation in unified field, which is that in a nutshell. And also, it's quite beautiful to have that archangelic inspired sacred geometric Metatron's cube in both these devices, particularly with the rose quartz being the main governed filter. So it has that high heart pink ray love activation at the center of this badging right here. Okay. So, on next to this blade facing this talisman is the legendary Moldavite and Libyan gold tektite. Libyan gold tektite, I'll start with first, being the stone of pharaohs, is a very prominent stone in ancient Egypt utilized into the pharaohic cast of magical crafting, and was utilized into the power breastplates and actually carved into a scarab beetle for the pharaohs, the god king wizards of the time period, and produced a very strong fire overtone of the strong stimulation of the sacrum and solar plexus. So a very powerful fire elemental manifester, as well as manifesting one's higher divine intent with creation, so to speak. So very much a stone of the king and queen archetype, to be quite simple, and a very powerful protection, psychic protection stone by such an intensification of the solar plexus. It's, for those that are gut instinct operated, so to speak, makes a very powerful shield to insulate any kind of negative bombardment that would really drain one's confidence and creativity, so to speak. So useful in a larger apparatus in a small dose, obviously, with a very well governed subroutine, to put it lightly. Next to that guy, also, Libyan gold tektite is found on this thumb engagement, which I'll get into separately, but I wanted to basically categorize the descriptions for both these at one time. So that's Libyan gold tektite, just like here. Next is Moldavite, just like right here. Moldavite is a green ray stone of great notoriety in this timeline, also known as the Stone of the Holy Grail, as being a green cosmic powerhouse. Moldavite has a very strong stimulation of the higher heart aspect of the optimized green ray, and has gained quite an infamous reputation based on the aspect of it being blamed of destroying one's life. I laugh because that's quite simply the aspect of anything in the false self matrix that's not aligned to the higher dharmic configuration gets rapidly purged out of the system, and the consequences of that could be rather dramatic in one's physical life, as they're shedding all the aspects of their false self identity that keeps in the divisitory state to one in creation. That being said, that in a small dose and a proper governing is a very powerful cosmic boost to one's dharmic grail aligned, spiritually perfected operating system, quite simply, which manifests as their dharmic destiny in reality by energetically manifesting first, obviously. And the aspect also, which I will discuss, about the contingency of both these devices having the Moldavite here with such a complicated subroutine and buffer sequence, is that it gives it that nice dharmic alignment cosmic boost, yet the transmutation blade bank rounds all the excess energy, all the stabilizers stabilize the excess energy, so it mitigates any kind of discomforts along the way. The idea, of course, is to make it very harmonious and produce a very slow is smooth and smooth is fast energy, so that the get the most out of that frequency without the negative connotations with such a complicated harmonized subroutine. I hope that relatively made sense, but quite simply, it's terminated to a very complicated broadcast to really mitigate any kind of unwanted desires. That's at least the intention, and so far it's been working in that regard for all the various constructs and distribution. So which I will have to get into the thumb engagement more over here, but I will go ahead and tackle lapis, which is found right here on this blade face of this talisman, as well as this thumb engagement. Lapis lazuli is a stone of the blue ray of great notoriety based on the aspect of its psychic capacity-inducing abilities, as well as being a higher 5th and 6th chakra activator, and a wind elemental stone, and a stone utilized in ancient Egypt as a stone of Isis for a lot of magical purposes, and a very powerful past life recaller, as well as a higher truth insightful frequency. So this stone also is very useful for having insights of clarity in having just good old-fashioned wisdom, quite simply, of activating one's higher mind based on like their soul's wisdom, quite simply. And to be able to speak that is advantageous in a lot of ways as well. Oh my goodness. Sometimes. Okay. So that's this blade face and a little bit of this guy right here. Jumping around quite a bit because I'm trying to cover as much ground as possible. This down here at the apex of this blade band is fulgurite. So fulgurite is actually petrified lightning. So you capture that energy of lightning striking sand in that matrix right there. So it has very powerful lightning energy, which is very stimulating to the entire chakra column for the full light body activation, which of course, I digress, it also works in tandem with everything else to make a really smooth, clean, vibratory intensity that you get the most out of the lightning by having the full energy spectrum ignited of the power of lightning mimicked in a stone format, and it really makes a powerful broadcast, as well as a very potent intention manifester. So the shamanic First Nation practitioners or medicine men of old would utilize this stone quite often to intensify their prayers to spirit and to put that energy out there as a very powerful shamanic tool. So obviously the application applies here, except it's wrapped on silver to its primary wire, so you get that lightning power through this entire well-developed closed-loop stabilized frequency broadcaster, which is also over here on this wand as well. I described the seraphinite already, so I will get into the scoicite, found here and here, next to this primary thumb engagement. Scoicite is an amazing white ray 6/7 non-physical chakra activation frequency of divine mind and divine peace, quite simply. And you guessed it, pretty harmonious frequency of that kind of unification with the divine of such a high white stimulation of the higher octaves of the non-physical chakras. So, with that being said, having this frequency on here is also a dose of extreme divine inner peace through the very complicated subroutine, which is a very peaceful to the mind frequency and witness higher self-perspective generator, and on a more physical level also excellent for balancing serotonin levels in the neurochemistry and that aspect too. And so a very, very advantageous white ray stone of divinity, quite simply. I described the celestials, both right here. It's a miracle I can keep track of what I say in such a complex rendition to describe both these in tandem. Okay, so I will do a little more of this discussion of the engine for right here on this talisman to condense that. This right here is turquoise, which is also found right here on this thumb engagement, which I promise I will get to in full description. Turquoise is a lovely fifth ray stone of wholeness and harmony and focus. It is also known as the ancient grandfather stone ally by the First Nation tribes, as well as use in Mongolia, use across the entire world. Turkish turquoise, obviously. That's where we have its modern name for it. And the Turks would utilize it, and the Egyptians utilize it. This was a very well utilized metaphysical stone and a favorite of many for centuries for a very good reason. It quite simply has the elemental spectrum of earth, fire, water, and wind through the fifth ray focus. So it produces a very clearing, stable, not really stabilized, that's Blue Lake's agate job, but a very wholeness sensation emanation. Hence, in tandem with the Blue Lace agate, works absolutely fantastic for the designated role of a high Blu-ray concentration device set, which translates to the fifth chakra. So that's turquoise in a nutshell. It's a very powerful pranic generator, meridian stimulator, and just a good old stone of feeling good and wholeness and harmony. Next to this guy right here is Larimar. Larimar is a very fantastic Blu-ray stone, more younger in our history, so to speak, discovered in 1982 from one place in the Dominican Republic by a volcano, I believe. It's known as the Stone of Atlantis, Stone of Dolphins, but a more pragmatic aspect is very powerful fire and water balancer, and a very strong fifth soother with the sixth tandem. So it makes a very powerful floating on clouds kind of calming energy while maintaining the clarity of the mind and the calming in voice projection. So very obviously advantageous to have that complementary frequency even in a small dose with a Blu-ray broadcast. See, I will conclude this guy right now. I'll just focus on this to get that out of the way. This right here is ruby and zoisite. This is a combination of ruby, a very powerful corundum red ray stone of great notoriety, used in antiquity by royals, kings and queens, and practitioners of and emperors, you name it. Based on the aspect that has powerful red ray activation of ruby, which is the enlightened base chakra frequency cotton stone. So that's a very zest for life, enthusiastic courage frequency, in tandem with the zoisite, which is one of the more powerful heart-mind coherence activators mineral kingdom. So when you have the trifecta of the enlightened base chakra enthusiasm in tandem with the heart-mind coherence, it makes a very powerful synergistic positive shift with gusto to one's highest, truest happiness, destiny in this reality. On this talisman, I installed a very nice little piece of Tibetan black quartz. So Tibetan black quartz, of course, comes from Tibet, a region on the planet that's had thousands of years of high spiritual work in one condensed area with monks dating back to times almost immemorial of true enlightened frequency grounding of that entire space. So that's where this guide comes from, as just a background note. And there's carbon inclusions of black ray inside these guys, which makes a very powerful energy purification to the entire system, from the top to bottom in tandem. It actually activates the entire chakra column in great unison, not to be mistaken with smoky quartz, but a very powerful full ohm frequency alignment. Another one of those aspects of source alignment that's very complementary to this golden white light frequency generator known as golden healer quartz. And so having the Tibetan black quartz, particularly on the talisman, will be of also another practical benefit is an extreme psychic protection window wash to maintain the integrity centers of one's idyllic auric field further. With more of a ohm frequency, more like protection through love than protection through fear, so to speak, is an aspect of this frequency cotton stone. And that does conclude this hood right here. I will discuss this section real quick with the iron pyrite and quartz. Iron pyrite, just like hematite, is an iron-based mineral. We can think of this more of a yang or masculine polarity version of hematite. While hematite can be almost unisex, or both polarities of the receptive feminine, positive masculine, and that's hematite in a nutshell. Pyrite takes more of that focus, actually, since it's a gold ray frequency, makes the stimulation of the iron base more grounded practical to the solar plexus, which is very powerful for manifestation, actually, as well as encouragement to strengthen one's will and the energy reserves. So a very good frequency be subcapacity at the apex of this band right here with the clear quartz to be the neutral generator, where the necklace will actually hang into right there, to be another anchored directional focus of this radial energy of this crystalline device nature. Okay, I'm going to check over the engine one more time, make sure I covered all bases there. I am rather thorough in my description videos. Okay, so I'm going to get into the thumb engagement for this guy. I already described a lot of the properties for these different frequencies in a closed loop circuit that is designed to have the thumb go like so right there to engage the circuit. So, I described the lapis and the turquoise in great detail, and they are subcapacitated by rutilated quartz. So rutilated quartz, like I mentioned down here with this guy, makes a very powerful acceleration of energy that runs through the circuit. So it obviously gives it a nice boost for the primary thumb engagement when this is engaged, makes a powerful synchronized engagement. For the broadcasting wielding of this device, as an example, there's a tree out there, my buddy, and I'll ground the frequency there, which I'll get into more once I describe more of the aspects of the focalizer crystals, actually taking the blade pan and focusing the excess radial energy into focus. The one stone not mentioned in the description is blue-white hemimorphite. This is a very powerful zinc-based stone, a very powerful top 4 activating light body unity mediumship frequency in the bluish whitish ray. So that aspect right there makes very powerful stimulation of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. The full heart-mind coherence is also non-physical chakras, so it's very, very advantageous for any aspects of mediumship or just straight simply spiritual knowledge being accessed by the conscious self of the wielder of this device. So it's quite the topic into itself, get into its metaphysical ramifications of hemimorphite, but quite simply, a very fantastic stone for mediumship and heart-mind coherence, and a very powerful higher stimulation light body generator. Like many different frequencies in this one closed-loop circuit are all complementary for this purpose of being a light body generator to be practically wielded for the benefit of creation. So underneath the living gold tektite and moldavite, which I described, down here is a special kind of quartz named Faden quartz, which is what these frequencies are grounded on top of, as well as the primary right here is grounded around the living gold tektite, moldavite, and the Faden quartz to generate this thumb engagement, to have its own closed-loop circuit power pack that is grounded into the primary wire of this entire device. Faden quartz is a very fantastic variant of quartz that actually is the product of, throughout its life cycle, break, stitch, break, stitch, break, stitch. So its entire life is constantly a break and a stitch, which vibrationally mimics the perfected stitching pattern actually for the auric field. So you can think of like the entire chakric field right here with the outer emanations, and having weak points or shatter points actually slow down the energy and from an optimized field. So Faden quartz actually works as like a fix-a-flat for any kind of shatter point. Let's say there's a serious problem in the sacrum area right here. It will actually run frequency over that section, stitch and pattern, and optimize the entire auric field's idyllic output from the entire like torus of the ideal output from the bottom to top, and stitch any point of weakness whatsoever, and fill in the cracks and get the optimized ignition order of the proper functioning meridian chakric auric template system. So, like I've digressed many times in this video thus far, having that stitching pattern with all these other frequencies designed to obviously fill in the cracks of any kind of deficiency that manifests as a disease of any kind, with a lot of different frequencies backing it, takes that frequency and makes it part of the subroutines. That's why it's in a prominent place to have a thumb engagement like so, to have like that frequency do a direct ground through the current of the system, and have all the other frequencies really backing it and making it a strong radial focus to actually ground into for the conscious self to engage into that thumb engagement, like so. That basically covers that guy. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to describe the selenites and the kyanites in tandem. So right here, these white stones that are shaped to the wood right here on both sides of these devices, this is selenite. Selenite by itself is a very lovely higher mind, higher chakra activator, to put it simply, starting with the strong concentration of the 6th, 7th, and non-physical chakras, all the way to the key to the higher self conscious template. Yet, it also purifies any densities throughout the entire field as well energetically, which is very advantageous by itself. What's very special about selenite utilized in a light tech construct, for example, though, is it takes the entire frequency pitch of this whole operating system, both these devices. It will harmonize, purify, and accelerate them all in tandem. So that's quite advantageous in a platform like this. So it's basically self-purifying from that closed-loop circuit with such a complicated subroutine built around it on both aspects of both these devices. And is very prominent for keeping the energy clear, to be quite simple about the subject, and to harmonize and amplify the entire subroutine frequency broadcast around both these frames. So it's critical in all light tech. Actually, I do incorporate a variant of selenite for this important purpose of perpetual clearing, amplification, harmonization. And to further get the most out of that harmonization, purification, and amplification is the use of the 4 spectrums of kyanite easily available to me of black, orange, green, blue, all represented here, of the 4 spectrums of kyanite to make very diverse rapid bridges of energy from the entire energy spectrum. So you can think of black kyanite being a very rapid bridger of the black ray, increasing the contact patch, the orange kyanite being a very rapid astral self sacrum activation, the green kyanite being a very powerful heart connection point through receptive protective barriers, as well as the blue kind be a very powerful psychic awareness activator from the receptive projective balance. So the advantageous aspect of kyanite is actually quite hard to keep very condensed for a video's sake, but I will do my best to make it simple without getting too far on a tangent. The kyanite spectrum in that tandem format also works as another insulation shield for the entire auric buffer. So you can think of rapid transfers of energy that will further accelerate any kind of patterns. So, for example, if frequency is aligned to this tree, the kyanite actually makes the transfer of energy very rapid, very, very fast, and very potent. So it's actually very good for aspects of diplomacy, particularly between disharmonious frequencies, such as, let's say, candidate A, auric field, certain frequency template, candidate B, maybe a different frequency template. Kyanite's very effective at rapidly bridging energy transfer between two parties, so it's one of the best stones for just making the etheric bridge between two separate parties and the illusion of division between humans, so to speak. That's kind of the kyanite spectrum in a nutshell. But what's important too is having the 4 kyanites makes a very rapid transfer throughout the entire centers, externally, internally, and it's almost, I needed to make a video just to describe the aspect of the kyanites mechanism role in these devices, because it's very meta, to say it quite lightly. And if anybody's made it this far in this video, it's obviously all been very meta. But even like this is hard to almost quantify into rational terms, to make it very pragmatic and academic, if you would. But no, kyanites, quite simply, rapid transfer energy, which is also very beneficial for making these devices very energy reactive to the higher self matrix of the wielder of this template. So you can think of the right frequency pitch always being in the background, auto-mitigated to the ideal configuration in a situational reactional aspect based on the other aspects of this platform that are very harmonious. Okay, I think that's enough about the kyanites. Alrighty, and so the main core of both these devices is cedarwood. Cedarwood has, from my lovely backyard, cedarwood has ancient magical connotations, particularly with Solomon the Wise, the great wizard magi. That was King David's son, who was a very notarized wizard, to put it quite simply, of his time period, and a king, and a very wise man, and a great, great magician, quite simply. So the cedarwood aspect, of course, from my backyard, it has an honored aspect rendition to that Solomon the Wise, great wizard frequency in the human morphic field. And also, the other set of devices this wielder is receiving this has oak as the wand as well as a talisman. So cedar is a little lighter density frequency opposed to oaks, which means its conducting rate is a little faster as a course, which gives it more of a higher vibe, particularly for the harmonious broadcast projection, if you would. So that would be harmony in the Lightblade wand and talisman format as a set. So obviously these two are very similar ignition sequences. As a matter of fact, that's baby harmony. This is harmony senior. And so that develops vibrational compound interest throughout the entire auric field. So you can imagine this aspect being installed on the chest as designed to be worn to have a certain radial frequency buffer in the background, having that harmonic frequency being a resonated flash drive that uploads into the system when in play, obviously. Then that will actually run the current through the physical arm and connect to this guy, much like Bluetooth smartphone technology, and will actually make a very powerful unified broadcast of the same resonance, which is very advantageous for aspects of higher frequency wielding, so to speak, which I will have to get into another time with this candidate, which is the plan. But at least getting this description video solidified is very advantageous to discuss what crystalline composition is going into such a focused construct. And very important aspect as well is these quartz right here are the focalizer quartz. So the focalizer points, if you would. So as the energy runs through this blade band, completing its entire circuit, recycling through a figure 8, these take the radial focus of the energy and make a very sharpening broadcast. So you can almost think of them as the crosshairs for the broadcast as well, when a ground is being discharged. And these 2 quartz points is titanium aura quartz. Titanium aura quartz is actually titanium pressure coated, pressure bonded to a clear quartz that is very activating to the entire energy system from top to bottom and vice versa, and a very strengthening intensive frequency. So you can think of that aspect as being a very powerful way to banish any kind of sluggish energies that would be stuck in the field, which of course this device will accomplish that goal for any purpose of kind of sluggish energies, because it's a very complex frequency broadcaster. And very good for keeping the energy solid and strengthened when engaged, so to speak, and also to keep the energy patterns clear and clean to the maximum octave. This right here is aqua aura quartz. Aqua aura quartz actually is gold pressure bonded to clear quartz that comes out this lovely blue. Aqua aura quartz is very similar to aquamarine in its frequency spectrum of stimulating the water-like elements of the 4th and 5th. Also, it makes a wonderful focused aspect of the 5th chakra, which goes in tandem perfectly with such a heavy blue ray concentration set. So with that being said, it also is very good for directing, soothing, healing energy, which is one of the big purposes of this device. Okay, so I believe that concludes the in-depth tour of Harmony. Very complex devices. Want to make sure I didn't forget anything that's very important to discuss in both these devices before I call it the video. But I believe that was very comprehensive. And that's basically it. Well, 1,000 blessings to anybody that's seen this video up to this point, and I pray the Force is with us always. Aho.